Clive, what would you say right now to the people of Sydney, New South Wales? 1,600 cases, 1,800 cases a day, whatever they're up to at the moment. It's horrible what's going on, and there's people dying in hospital.
Yeah, well,
we've seen people die in hospital. They're not dying of fake disease, they're dying of COVID-19. You're up here today, it's irresponsible.
Well, I don't believe that, you know.
But what would you say to those business owners that can't open their business because
I would say it's terrible.
Their Premier's telling them that the only way out is a double jab, and that's what they've been told.
Yeah, I'd say that Premier's lying to them. I'd say that she's under an IPAC inquiry, that a particular lobbyist in Sydney controls the Liberal Party in Sydney and has told her that the only way she gets out of that inquiry is if she pushes the double jab, and his clients are AstraZeneca, and his clients are Pfizer. That's what I'd say.
That's political. What about the business owner that's been told he can't open his doors until he double jabs?
If you let me answer your question, I'll answer it.
You're just answering with IPAC
that's what
politics.
You asked me.
About people that are trying to open their businesses, people that live in border towns that are told they have to double jab.
Well, if you don't want me to answer the question, I'll answer the question to start with. That's what I'd tell them, and I'd say that what the Premier's telling them is not true, and that policy shouldn't be locked down. Businesses should be open, and the government's using this as an excuse to destroy them, and they know that.
Do you think that the Premier of New South Wales wants to destroy business?
I do.
Why would she do that?
Because
it's her economy.
Because as I tried to explain to you, that she's being directed by a lobbyist in Sydney who's being paid by AstraZeneca and by Pfizer tens of millions of dollars to get these policies through to make sure the vaccine is pushed. That's why. You asked the question, I gave you the answer. And that's my personal knowledge. And I'm happy to make a statement here to police or to anyone if they want to know what's going on. That's all. Well, I'll be doing that, but they'll be named. But not only that, what's more important, as I said, 46,000 people, 20,000 from the western suburbs of Sydney, has decided to join our party. And we do live in a democracy in Australia at the moment, and there is an election coming up, and the government, the federal government, will be held to account. I'll just see if there's anyone else who wants to ask a question.
Yeah, have you been vaccinated yourself?
No.
No, and you won't be vaccinated?
Definitely not, no.
And is the policy of the United Party to stop the rollout altogether? Is that what you would like to see?
Well, I think in Australia we've got a very good system of approvals normally for vaccines over a 10-year period normally, a 7 to 10-year period. And one of the major requirements is that there is substantial safety data at 2, 3 and 5 years. The other requirement is that there's safety studies for testing in pregnant women and for children. There's been no studies done of any of these vaccines. And what I'm in favour of is protecting that approval system. That's what I'm in favour. I'm saying if a vaccine hasn't gone through those approvals, we shouldn't be willy-nilly putting it into the whole population. That's my point of view. But everybody, including members of our party, are entitled to their own opinion.
So people should have the option to get vaccinated?
Well, it's the option. It's freedom of choice in Australia. Well, I don't think there should be any law that requires people not to... I think a medical treatment should be between a patient and his doctor, really. He knows the individual's medical condition. It shouldn't be a blanket cover for anybody. It should be between the doctor. It should be a private thing. The Commonwealth Privacy Act requires medical records to be kept private, and we've long had that tradition in Australia. But suddenly we see directions from the police department in Queensland saying that people must be vaccinated or they lose their jobs, that teachers in New South Wales must be vaccinated or they lose their jobs, that there becomes a condition of employment that you take a medical treatment. Now, back in Nuremberg in 1947, the International Court of Justice said that was wrong. They said that following the treatments and experimentation that took place in World War II, they said individuals should have the right to decide what goes into their body and what doesn't. Section 51(23)A of the Australian Constitution prohibits coercion in relation to medical practitioners, would stop them from being coerced by any penalty or anything from giving their vaccine. And we see today that there is coercion taking place in our society, and we think it's wrong. And that's why Craig Kelly's got so much support, and that's why there's a big shift coming in the Australian electoral system, and it'll happen at the next election.
But who did Queensland Police say they had to have a jab?
Sorry?
You said Queensland Police have told people not to have a jab.
Well, there's a direction from the Queensland Police Commissioner requiring all officers to have a jab.
And health workers have been told the same.
I understand that. I'm not familiar with that direction. I am with the Queensland Police one. I think it's by the 4th of October for the Queensland Police, or they're not suitable for duty, and I think the nurses are by the end of September.
Unions agree with it.
Well, they do, and that's the sad thing, because We normally have a diversity of decision in, of opinion in Australia, and the media has always been famous, the Australian media, for many years reporting two sides of the argument. And there are two sides of this argument, and people should be informed and people should have the right to know. And we're saying they're not having the right to know, and they're not having the political choice when you get all of our political parties saying the same thing. You know, and there is good reason not to say it. Now, that's one of the reasons that we're doing what we're doing.
What do you think?
I'll just check if anyone, I'm happy to answer you, but I'll just ask if has anyone else got a question they want to ask or not?
Yeah, Clive, lots of Australians are complaining about getting spam text messages from Craig Kelly. Can they expect to get more?
Well, you'd have to ask him, right? But all I could give you some figures from the other side of the argument. 1,378,000 Australians got access to this report from the spam messages and spent time reviewing it and looking at it, and that's a reality. So I think that's the other side of the argument. Those people thought it was important enough for them to be able to download it or for them to be able to go through it. So, you know, there'll always be diversity of opinion. And of course, what Craig Kelly did was completely legal. When I was in Parliament, the government and the opposition decided that political parties were exempt, that they could send text messages through, and of course the Liberal Party and the Labor Party did that. But they never thought one of the minor parties would have the funds or resources to do that, so they thought it was a great joke. But now they know that other people can follow what their leadership in that area, and that's what we did.
How big is the campaign war chest leading to the next federal election?
Well, yeah, I'm sure it will be the most well-funded campaign of any of the parties contesting the election. I'm sure we'll be having the most campaign workers, and I'm sure we'll be having the most members. That's how it looks at the moment.